Hello. Hi. Hi. Hello. What up? I hope y'all's good. I hope y'all's day's been good. Mine's been a little chaotic, but good nonetheless. I've been gathering myself back up into the mass called, me. I've been trying to gather my pieces into a highly functioning human again. I'm looking forward to today. I took a brief catch up. Excuse me. A brief insight to see what was going on today. We've got 2 chapters of Genesis to read, and then we go straight into Psalms. So it should be brief, unless there are 2. I got a little where I was like, are these 2 highly dense chapters? But we're still in the story of Joseph and his coat and his brothers, his family. He's still in prison. So I know at some point he has to make it to the front of Pharaoh. Let's see how this plays out. He has some dreams to interpret. I myself bought a dream interpretation book the other day because I felt like, not the other day, yesterday. I did this immediately after getting off the live because it was what I remembered I needed to do. I've been putting off for a while. So I wanted to just get the book so I could have it on hand and try to see if I could gain any more insight into all of the dreams I've been journaling. So yeah, that's where we are. The devotional video today is some insight about meditation literature and the writing style that Jewish meditation literature, basically its writing style. I have a devotional. Well, the devotional videos links, so it's all there. But the devotional description, I'll just read through real quick. The Bible is meant to be enjoyed over a lifetime of reading and meditation. So essentially, it means you're not going to get the story right off the bat. Or how you listen to a song and it's a real, you jamming out with that song, you rocking it, and then you rock into it, is what I would say. And then you hear the song after, I don't know, years or whatever, and it just hits different. I feel like that's what the Bible is as an art form. It's just gonna hit different every time. And that's just because of the season you're in and the perception you're using to engage with it. So yeah. The Bible is designed as a multi-layered work, offering new levels of insight as you reread it and allow each part to help you understand every other part. So pretty much as we progress, let's piece together the story, the details, the timelines, all of that. I feel like they do a lot of doubling back to reiterate things from different perspectives and then to catch you back up. But the reason why the Bible trips me up is because they don't detail everything. It's not, you don't get every little bit. You don't get all of the minutia. You don't get all of the emotional turmoil. You don't get every individual thought and perspective. Or not even the thought of one character throughout the whole thing. You're not following someone's story, one person's story the whole time. So it's trying to piece together this collage of events and then relate it back to what's going on, or feel it relate to you as this collage of events starts to work its way and change the way you go about your progression through life. So moving on. we are going to start. Oh, and they jump right into it in Genesis 41 with the Pharaoh's dream. Oh, that's so. Joseph is in prison for a while, right? 2 full years later, Pharaoh. This is 2 full years later after his birthday bash, because that's where we left off. Pharaoh dreamed that he was standing on the bank of the Nile River. In his dream, he saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and begin grazing in the marsh grass. Then he saw 7 more cows come up behind them from the Nile. But these were scrawny and thin. These cows stood behind the fat cows on the riverbank. Then the scrawny, thin cows ate the 7 healthy cows. Then the scrawny, thin cows ate the 7 healthy, fat cows. At this point in the dream, Pharaoh woke up, but he fell asleep again and had a second dream. This time he saw 7 heads of grain, plump and beautiful, growing on a single stalk. The 7 more heads of grain appeared, but these were shriveled and withered by the east wind. And these thin heads swallowed up the 7 plump heads, 7 plump, well-formed heads. Then Pharaoh woke up again and realized it was a dream. And the next morning, Pharaoh was very disturbed by these dreams. So the weaker were eating the like healthier, full versions, it seems. So he called all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. He was really disturbed by these dreams because he called everybody. See, like, you have a nightmare. That's what I'm confused by the Pharaoh, because you have a nightmare, right? And then you just like try to forget it. You don't usually call up everyone. I need to know what this is about. So he called for all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. The Pharaoh told them his dreams. Not one of them could tell him what they meant. Finally, the king's chief cupbearer spoke up. "Today I have been reminded of my failure," he told Pharaoh. Right? Because this was the guy who spent some time in prison with Joseph. And Joseph, during the moment, had a chance to interpret not just his dream, but the dream of the chief chef who was imprisoned, as well as the chief cupbearer. Joseph then interprets both of those dreams to a T, and then everything that is interpreted from those dreams comes to pass. And Joseph's only request is that when you are, he tells the cupbearers that when you're restored to your position, please present my plea to the Pharaoh. Let them know that I am unjustly been unjustly captured and imprisoned, and I've done nothing to belong here. Right, today I've been reminded of my failure. Some time ago, about 2.5 years ago, some time ago, you were angry with the chief baker and me, and you imprisoned us in the palace of the captain of the guard. One night, the chief baker and I each had a dream, and each dream had its own meaning. There was a young Hebrew man with us in the prison who was a slave of the captain of the guard. We told him our dreams, and he told us what each of our dreams meant. And everything happened just as he had predicted. I was restored to my position as a cupbearer, and the chief baker was executed and impaled on a pole. Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once. He was quickly brought from prison. the prison. After he shaved and changed his clothes, he went in and stood before Pharaoh. So nice, he gets the chance to freshen himself up. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I have heard that when you heard about a dream, you can but I have heard that when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it. It is beyond my power to do this, Joseph replied. But God can tell you what it means and set you at ease. So Pharaoh told Joseph his dream. In my dream, he said, I was standing on the riverbank of the Nile River. And I saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and begin grazing in the marsh grass. But then I saw 7 sick-looking cows, scrawny and thin, come up after them. I've never seen such sorry-looking animals in all the land of Egypt. These thin, scrawny cows ate the 7 fat cows. But afterward, you wouldn't have known it, for they were still as thin and scrawny as before. Then I woke up. In my dream, I also saw 7 heads of grain, full and beautiful, growing on a single stalk. Then 7 more heads of grain appeared, but these were blighted, shriveled, and withered by the east wind. And the shriveled heads swallowed the 7 healthy heads. I told these dreams to the magicians, but no one could tell me what they meant. Joseph responded, both of the Pharaoh's dreams mean the same thing. God is telling Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. The 7 healthy cows and the 7 healthy heads of grain both represent 7 years of prosperity. The 7 thin, scrawny cows that came up later and the 7 thin heads of grain withered by the east wind represent 7 years of famine. This will happen just as I have described it, for God has revealed to Pharaoh in advance what he is about to do. The next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity throughout the land of Egypt. But afterward, there will be 7 years of famine so great that all the prosperity will be forgotten in Egypt. Famine will destroy the land. This famine will be so severe that even the memory of the good years will be erased. As for having 2 similar dreams, it means that these events have been decreed by God, and he will soon make them happen. Therefore, Pharaoh should find an intelligent and wise man and put him in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Then Pharaoh should appoint supervisors over the land and let them collect 1/5 of all the crops during the 7 good years. Have them gather all the food produced in the good years that are just ahead and bring it to Pharaoh's storehouses. Store it away and guard it so there will be food in the cities. That way, there will be enough to eat when the 7 years of famine come to the land of Egypt. Otherwise, this famine will destroy the land. That's such an ominous... Well, I mean, I guess it's about like balance, right? Because at least you have this 7 years of really good, prosperous time, right? So you have 7 years to guard against the 7 years of devastation that this famine is going to bring. But I wonder how inclined, it's going to describe like how inclined they are going to be to listen to him. Was Joseph able to shake the criminal accusations against him when he's pulled out of prison and given a chance to freshen up and wash up? Or do they still think he's a criminal and will just kind of like, what cause do they have to believe his interpretation? With that being said, I guess it's cool to know ahead of time what you're guarding for. So God's sending this message to Pharaoh and let him know that, this famine's gonna hit. It's been decreed by me. the reoccurring, the occurring twice, the two similar dreams, means this decree will happen soon. And then he's saving 1/5 of everything in the good years. So in 1/5 of everything for 7 years, in order to have that stored and saved for the 7 years of devastation. I wonder how vivid and like how disturbing the dreams were for Pharaoh to feel so deeply and seek out interpretation for these specific dreams. I wonder what triggered that for him. Joseph made ruler of Egypt. Joseph's suggestions were well received by Pharaoh and his officials. So Pharaoh asked his officials, "Can we find anyone else like this man, so obviously filled with the Spirit of God?" Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Since God has revealed the meaning of these dreams to you, clearly no one else is as intelligent or wise as you are. You will be in charge of my court, and all my people will take orders from you. Only I, sitting on my throne, will have a rank higher than yours." That's amazing, because now he's outranking this I forget his name, Pharaoh something whatever, who was the Pharaoh's king, captain of the guard. So he's outranking this man who threw him in prison. He's outranking this man who was his slave master mere years ago. 2-3 years ago. So like legit, start from the bottom. Now I'm second to Pharaoh. Like I'm second to the king. Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt." Then Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his hand and placed it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him up in fine linen clothing and hung a gold chain around his neck. Then he had Joseph ride in the chariot reserved for his second in command, and wherever Joseph went, the command was shouted, "Kneel down." So Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of all of Egypt. And Pharaoh said to him, "I am Pharaoh, but no one will lift a hand or foot in the entire land of Egypt without your approval." Woo. Then Pharaoh gave Joseph a new Egyptian name. I'm not going to be able to say that. Maybe I will. Hold on. Zaphenath Paneer. Zaphenath Paneer probably means God speaks and lives. Let's highlight that. Okay, so he then gives Joseph a new name. He also gave him a wife whose name was Asenath. She was the daughter of Potipharah, the priest of On. So Joseph took charge of the entire land of Egypt. That's amazing. He was 30 years old when he began serving in the court of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And when Joseph left Pharaoh's presence, he inspected the entire land of Egypt. As predicted, for 7 years, the land produced bumper crops. Can I get a comparison, please? And in the 7 plenteous years, the earth brought forth by handfuls. During the 7 years of plenty, the land produced abundant crops. Okay, so that's what that means. Just being bumper crops, just being so many, just being abundance. During those years, Joseph gathered all the crops grown in Egypt and stored the grain from the surrounding fields in the cities. He piled up huge amounts of grain like sand on the seashore. Finally, he stopped keeping records because there was too much to measure. During this time, before the first of the famine years, 2 sons were born to Joseph and his wife Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, the priest of On. Joseph named his older son Manasseh, for he said, God has made me forget all my troubles and everyone in my father's family. Causing the name Manasseh means causing to forget. Manasseh. Joseph named his second son Ephraim. Which means fruitful. For he said, God has made me fruitful in this land of my grief. At last, the 7 years of bumper crops throughout the land of Egypt came to an end. Then the 7 years of famine began, just as Joseph had predicted. The famine also struck all the surrounding countries, but throughout Egypt there was plenty of food. Eventually, however, the famine spread throughout the land of Egypt as well, and when people cried out to Pharaoh for food, he told them, "Go to Joseph and do whatever he tells you." So with severe famine everywhere, Joseph opened up the storehouses and distributed grain to the Egyptians, for the famine was severe throughout the land of Egypt. And people from all around came to Egypt to buy grain from Joseph because the famine was severe throughout the world. So now, because Joseph so wisely stewarded all of Egypt those 7 years of prosperity, he's gatekeeping these grain stores and throughout the famine period. So people are coming in, buying from him, but is do whatever he tells you. So he's not just selling it, I guess. He's giving instruction or command as well. Joseph's brothers go to Egypt. When Jacob heard that grain was available in Egypt, he said to his sons, "Why are you standing around looking at one another? I have heard that there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy enough grain to keep us alive. Otherwise, we'll die." So Joseph's 10 older brothers went down to Egypt to buy grain, but Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother Benjamin go with them for fear some harm might come to him. So right, Jacob now has this fear, valid fear of losing a son, because to him Joseph's dead. He grieved Joseph. He grieved Joseph deeply. And now 2 years plus time has passed. So he keeps his youngest son behind for fear of something happening to him. So Jacob's sons arrived in Egypt along with others to buy food, for the famine was in Canaan as well. Since Joseph was governor of all Egypt and in charge of selling grain to all the people, it was to him that his brothers came. When they arrived, they bowed before him with their faces to the ground. How satisfying. Don't watch your enemies come to you and beg. Watch the people who sought and actively participated in moves that should have been your destruction come down and bow before you, submitting to your authority over potentially saving their lives. How satisfying. Joseph recognized his brothers instantly, but he pretended to be a stranger and spoke harshly to them. "Where are you from?" he demanded. "From the land of Canaan," they replied. "We have come to buy food." Although Joseph recognized his brothers, they didn't recognize him, and he remembered the dreams he'd had about them many years before. He said to them, "You are spies. You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "No, my lord," they exclaimed. "Your servants have simply come to buy food. We are all brothers, members of the same family. We are honest men, sir. We are not spies." Y'all not honest men either, but hey, okay. "Yes, you are," Joseph insisted. "You have come to see how vulnerable our land has become." "Sir," they said, "there are actually 12 of us. We, your servants, are all brothers, sons of a man living in the land of Canaan. Our youngest brother is back there with our father right now, and one of our brothers is no longer with us." But Joseph insisted. "As I said, you are spies. This is how I will test your story. I swear by the life of Pharaoh that you will never leave Egypt unless your youngest brother comes here. One of you must go and get your brother. I'll keep the rest of you here in prison. Then we'll find out whether or not your story is true. By the life of Pharaoh, if it turns out that you don't have a younger brother, then I'll know you are spies." First of all, let's say the story was true, and I know he loved that, but let's say the stories are true and these guys are spies. What's to keep them from just getting another spy and being like, "Hey, pretend you're my brother"? Like, what's to keep them from having another spy friends? Like, okay, but moving on. So Joseph put them all in prison for 3 days. That is nothing compared to the 2 years of prison, at least, that Joseph had already gone through. I'm sure he probably went through like three years, because they were a couple years before the chief baker and all of that even entered, right? And then we're not even counting slave years, so that's nothing. So Joseph put them all in prison for 3 days. On the 3rd day, Joseph said to them, "I am a God-fearing man. If you do as I say, you will live. If you really are honest men, choose one of your brothers to remain in prison. The rest of you may go home with grain for your starving families, but you must bring your youngest brother back to me. This will prove that you are telling the truth, and you will not die." To this, they agreed. Speaking amongst themselves, they said, "Clearly we are being punished because of what we did to Joseph long ago. We saw his anguish when he pleaded for his life, but we wouldn't listen. That's why we're in this trouble." That's true. Joseph definitely had time to plead and ask for forgiveness from his brother between the being thrown in the cistern and being taken out of the cistern to be sold to the traders, to then be dragged away by these traders. There was a lot of time for Joseph to plead his case and for them to see the look of betrayal but continue. The look of like, oh my God, are you really doing this to me? But then continue anyway? At least they know why they're being punished. That's why we are in this trouble. Didn't I tell you not to sin against the boy? Reuben asked. But you wouldn't listen, and now we have to answer for his blood. Of course, they didn't know Joseph understood them, for he had been speaking to them through an interpreter. Now he turned away from them and began to weep. When he regained his composure, he spoke to them again. Then he chose Simon from among them, and he had him tied up right before his brothers. Then Joseph then ordered his servants to fill the men's sacks with grain, but he also gave secret instructions to return their brothers' payment. Secret instructions to return each brother's payment at the top of his sack. Oh. So the payment that they used to buy grain was being put back in the grain sacks at the top. He also gave them supplies for their journey home. So the brothers loaded their donkeys with the grain and headed for home. But when they stopped for the night, and one of them opened his sack to get grain for his donkey, he found his money in the top of his sack. Look, he exclaimed to his brothers, my money has been returned. It is here in my sack. Then their hearts sank. Trembling, they said to each other, what has God done to us? What does that mean? When the brothers came to their father Jacob in the land of Canaan, they told him everything that had happened to them. The man who is governor of the land spoke very harshly to us, they told him. He accused us of being spies scouting the land. But we said, we are honest men, not spies. We are 12 brothers, sons of one father. One brother is no longer with us, and the youngest is at home with our father in the land of Canaan. So they're still telling this. Well, they probably believe it for real now. But also, one brother is no longer with us has so many implications. It's not straight up saying one brother's dead. He's just no longer. Well, it's an ambiguous statement, is what I was trying to get at. Then the man who was governor of the land told us, this is how I will find out if you are honest men. Leave one of your brothers here with me and take grain for your starving families and go home. But you must bring your youngest brother back to me. Then I will know you are an honest man and not spies. Then I will give you back your brother, and you may trade freely in the land. As they emptied out their sacks, there in each man's sack was a bag of money he had paid for the grain. The brothers and their father were terrified when they saw the bags of money. Jacob exclaimed, you are robbing me of my children. Joseph is gone, Simon is gone, and now you want to take Benjamin too. Everything is going against me. Then Reuben said to his father, you may kill my 2 sons if I don't bring Benjamin back to you. I'll be responsible for him, and I promise to bring him back. But Jacob replied, my son will not go down with you. His brother Joseph is dead, and he is all I have left. If anything should happen to him on his journey, you would send this grieving, white-haired man to his grave. Ooh, okay, so Reuben is probably really the only guy I have some modicum of respect for, because he was the only one who was like, okay, throw him in the cistern and plan to return to the cistern to let Joseph escape later on. But then the plan evolved while he wasn't paying attention, and Joseph ends up getting served into slavery. So when he goes back for his brother and realizes no one's there, he's like, oh my gosh, what have you done? And that's when they bloody the robe, and it proceeds. The only reason, that's a slight bit of respect. That is the only reason. But he also perpetuated this lie amongst his father and watched his father grieve for years. Plus, I feel like they were too quick to leave another brother behind in prison. Like, you were too quick with that. Okay. But hey, I don't know what I would do in those circumstances, especially if you plan on going and then coming back. But the journey between Egypt and Canaan can't be an easy one, especially mid-famine. So, by donkey, which is like a walking animal. It's not even like you can just gallop on a donkey at high speed. I can see Jacob's resistance to not wanting Benjamin to go fully, and it's like, oh, I can't lose another. But in taking the risk of letting Benjamin go with Reuben, you can likely gain the return of one of your other sons. So all of your family could be there. You have no reason to believe that you would have to lose a son at this point, to sacrifice him in prison and leaving him there to rot at trying to protect the one son. And you're like, if I lose him, I have nothing left. But you have a total of 12, 11 right now. There are 10 in front of you. You can't say Benjamin, if you lose him, you have nothing left. You have another. I'm not saying that, but you still have the other sons. Like, it's just weird to say you'll have nothing left. And then Reuben being like, yo, if I don't come back with him, go ahead and kill your 2 grandsons. Like, how does that even stack up? You're just doubling up on the grief, like. So then you lose your brother. Your 2 sons are murdered as penance. But his grandson, then he's losing 2 sons, 2 grandsons, and then grieving and being angered by you, being the disappointment of the loss, all of that. And he's gonna lose his connection with you. That's gonna be, how does that even? Why is that the guarantee here? Why is that what we're using as collateral to calm him? That is just such a big, like, one up. That's like that's a big ante, That's Genesis 42. On Psalms 13 now. This is for the choir director, a psalm of David. O Lord, how long will you forget me? Forever? How long will you look the other way? How long must I struggle with anguish in my soul, with sorrow in my heart every day? How long will my enemy have the upper hand? Turn and answer me, O Lord my God. Restore the sparkle to my eyes, or I will die. Don't let my enemies gloat, saying, we have defeated him. Don't let them rejoice at my downfall. But I trust in your unfailing love. I will rejoice because you have rescued me. I will sing to the Lord because he is good to me. I saw a post today, and the post was like, oh, we aren't meant to fear. We aren't meant to worry. We are meant to worship you daily. I get so caught up in everything that I have to do, everything that's being done around me. I get so caught up in trying to keep pace. I get caught up, living life. Life is a little strange. And there are some times where I'm functioning at my best. I am praying. I am grateful. I am worshiping. I am seeing the objectives of my life clearly. I don't feel burdened by the pressures of my day-to-day activities. I'm connecting with my friends. I'm nurturing my relationships. I'm feeding myself well. I'm getting up and I'm living to my fullest. And then there are times where as the days go by, I forget to be thankful. I don't spit the ground. Like, I am still grateful, but I'm not saying and I'm not taking moments to be grateful. I'm grateful, but I'm not announcing my gratitude. I'm not actively participating in the act of gratitude. And I'm praising, and then slowly I'm praising less, and then slowly the prayers aren't going to the Lord as frequently, and it's such a blur when that all happens, because it just starts to slip away slowly. Not even like, oh, I'm not going to do that today, making a conscious decision. It's just like, by the time I turn around, getting so caught up in everything that's going and going and going, by the time I turn around, I'm like, oh, right, I haven't been doing that, and I haven't been doing this, and that's what's keeping me level-headed. But it's not even like I look up one day and I notice, and then I get back into it. It's I look up one day and I can't understand why I'm feeling so distraught, why I'm feeling so turbulent in my day. Like, why do I feel so overwhelmed? And gratitude, prayer, praise. Like, prayer is one thing. That's a whole nother beast. It's conversation. It's asking. It's requesting. It's pleading. It's all of those things. But praise is just taking everything you see, but expecting good anyway. It's taking everything you see, expecting good anyway, and rejoicing to God, rejoicing to God, because He's providing you with those things. You don't have to see those things right now. Praise is different. Praise is, okay, all right, well, this is whatever, but hey, it's gonna be good. Like, praise. Yes, praise, prayer, gratitude. I feel like those 3 things right now, it's just 3, are the shields against overwhelm. Like the barriers. They're my dam against feeling overwhelmed. But it's so easy to let that, it's so easy to forget. To actively maintain that barrier, because it's not just, oh, I am grateful. It's not, oh, I've been, I could, I'm grateful. It's not just pray. Like, those things are activities you actively have to engage in every day, because you have to restore you have to, it's just, I don't know how I'm explaining this. I'm crazy. But what I'm trying to say is that by having praise, by having gratitude, by having prayer, and actively engaging in that every day, you put a little bit of your spirit into this. You're fueling those things. You're fueling your gratitude, praise, and prayer. You're fueling these things because it's shielding you against the overwhelm of day-to-day life. And day-to-day life does not stop. It is a constant flow. It is a constant energy trying to bombard you over and over again. You will be fine 1 minute and then turn around and you're drowning the next. You will be fine 1 minute and be confused. Like, what just happens? You will get whiplash. It happens so quickly. If you constantly are repairing those things, there is a shield of peace that just protects your mind. It protects your spirit, and it protects your person. And I'm learning that like those things need to be continuously poured into, continuously maintained, because they're forever getting graded up against. They're forever just hitting like life energy. What was my point? Where was I going? It stemmed off Psalms, and then, well, yeah, okay. Take that how you will. I'm gonna. I think I've addressed it multiple times, the kind of funk that I've been in for the past couple weeks. And it was basically realizing that some of this was like, oh, I wasn't keeping my gratitude journal up to date. It's like, oh, I was, and sometimes it's not a journal. Sometimes it's just bath time where I'm just like saying things I'm grateful for as I lather up, you know. Sometimes it's just those things. Sometimes it's a praise dance as I prepare tea, you know. But if I'm not keeping those things in place, I get very lost in the storm of what my life wants out of me. What life wants out of me rather than what I want out of life. Okay, well, yes. Bye.